Oh my god, how long have it been out? What even happened? Oh, I guess that happened. Captain America. Steve Rogers, the man out of time, needs no introduction. You know him, I know him, the uncle you tend to certainly avoid, wear shirts of him. You can say a lot about the guy, since he's been around from the 40s. I could talk about his many successors, his time as Nomad, him being a werewolf, or that one time Rob Liefeld almost went to court with both Marvel and Jack Kirby's estate because he tried making his own Mick America hero. But those are stories for another time. For today, I just have one question for you. When was Captain America unfrozen? Seemingly an innocuous question on the surface may actually raise more questions than answers. This thought came to me when I was reading Chip Zdarsky's recent run for Captain America. A fresh relaunch for the character that places him in a modern era, forcing our favorite Boy Scout to confront a more dark and cynical United States, scarred from the War on Terror. Asking how Steve would react to such a different world that's not scared to use underhanded tactics and put civilians in harm's way. My favorite characterization of Steve is when he's uncertain he thinks about Bucky and asks him what he should do. I especially love the moment when he asks Reed Richards, if there's figures of him, does that mean they're figures of Bucky? Even after all these years, he still thinks of his right-hand man, Bucky, and it's just really sweet and just gives a nice preface to the Winter Soldier. While I do have some problems with the book, mainly how they handle Doom's background, making him a state-sponsored coup, kinda takes away from him as a character and goes against the Book of Doom miniseries, but while reading this, it mentions the War on Terror is in full swing before Captain America even wakes up, causing me to realize something. Captain America woke up after the 2000s. I don't know, rubs me the wrong way? It's not like it retcons everything before it, the books happen just at a later date now. Plus, this certainly isn't the first time this happened. Look at the Ultimate Universe, the entire point was to make his origin more modern, if you can call it that. As well, the MCU did that no problem. Why does it feel so weird to see that with 616? Am I getting old? Shit, I guess I gotta be bigoted now. Let's put on something. Oh, perfect. Now here's the thing, it all comes down to the timeline. Comics are a serialized medium. They're like soap operas in the fact they're meant to go on forever. You and I will be in the same retirement home and Marvel will use their new model of slot GPT to come up with a bold new direction for Spider-Man. What if he's broken single? But inherently, there come some problems with this approach. Sometimes comics become a little outdated to modern sensibilities. Like, really outdated. And sometimes if a story goes for so long, it gets convoluted and doesn't add up like it used to. Now the big two handles this problem in different ways. While DC uses massive line reboots to retell origins, retcon storylines, and modernize characters, to rein in continuity for a fresh new beginning. I mean, god, if you make a comic where Superman hangs out with prolific Subway spokesman Jared Fogle, the best course of action is to blow up the world and try again. But Marvel really hasn't done that. The closest they got was in Secret Wars, but even then, it wasn't a massive reboot, more so a shakeup. Basically, the main way Marvel circumvents the X-Men from becoming the X-Youths is the sliding time scale. Essentially, time is measured on a curve rather than a linear line. Time still progresses, but slower. Basically, everything published in 616, barring retcons, is canon. The time they happen gradually moves up to match our current year. But this only applies to Marvel storylines. Actual real-world history still happens when it's supposed to. Say World War II, it still happens in the 40s, and this includes Marvel's characters that are involved with these historical events. So Namor, Jim Hammond, and Captain America would still be active in the 40s. This gets weird with Iron Man and the Punisher, who both started off in Vietnam but slowly got hand-waved off as a vague war that wasn't nearly as defined. Marvel ages don't really have an exact date, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You wouldn't say that the Fantastic Four formed in the 60s, you would rather say that it happened in the past 15 to 20 years ago. So while Captain America did get frozen near the end of World War II, he would eventually wake up in the 60s, then the 70s, the 80s, let's ignore whatever the hell was going on in the 90s, and now in the 2000s. In turn, modernizing these origins and making sure these characters stay relatively young and not have to reboot their timeline. But I don't know. Something about Captain America waking up in the post-Y2K world doesn't really sit right. It's 9/11. My problem is that Captain America wasn't there for the 2001 attacks. I am being serious when I say this. This isn't some joke. For those who don't know, following these tragic events, the following issue of JMS's Spider-Man would tackle how the Marvel Universe would react to the terror attacks. We see heroes working with first responders to save people, villains putting aside their different. Dr. Doom, what the fuck are you doing here? I really don't think now is a good time. You're probably like suspect number 1, please. For the time, it probably did a good job and maybe helped at least one kid process their grief, while nowadays, okay, it's a little funny and kind of bad. I'm sorry. What's important is that Captain America shows up near the end, teary-eyed at all the carnage, a symbolic representation of the American spirit feeling crushed by this national tragedy. But here's the problem. If Zdarsky's Captain America wakes up in the mid-2000s, that means he wasn't there during the attacks. He was still frozen years away from his revival. Now, it's uncommon for cultural references to be kind of hand-waved away. Say when Johnny Storm says he met the Beatles, or when Spider-Man met Obama. These don't need to be addressed. They're not important, but what is important is that cultural events are updated to adhere to the sliding timescale. You might know where I'm going with this, but because I'm a hack fraud YouTuber, I decided to check the Wikipedia page to fact check myself quickly. That's where I found this little section. A more contemporary case of the sliding timescale in motion is the depiction of the World Trade Center. In 2001, after the Twin Towers were destroyed in a terrorist attack, the comics were released after the completion of the new tower. The One World Trade Center in July 2013 featured that building instead. What building stands in that location should be considered a topical reference in regards to any publication that depicts anything other than the One World Trade Center, because the sliding timescale has now progressed so far that the modern age does not start until 2001. Now walk with me here. If stories featuring the original towers standing are now retconned to be the One World Trade Center, and now the modern age of heroes had progressed way past 2001, and JMS's Spider-Man issue, which includes the original Twin Towers, takes place after 2001, but if any stories depicting the Twin Towers are now the One World Trade Center, and if we want to be as strict to continuity as possible, would that mean in JMS's Spider-Man, instead of it being the Twin Towers, it was the One World Trade Center, meaning that there are now 2 September 11th attacks in the Marvel Universe. Oh my god. This is why I have such a problem with being beholden to such strict continuity, and I think it shouldn't matter as much. Now, I'm not trying to be that pretentious. Okay, maybe I am. But genuinely speaking, how much does this whole sliding timescale actually matter? I'm not saying continuity isn't important. It's obviously important to keep things consistent when it comes to writing serialized stories. These characters have defined history, but it's not like the sliding timescale erases these stories. You can still read these books, but it's just now they take place maybe a little bit later. You don't need all the details or whatever to enjoy a character. I mean, look at Iron Man. This guy has probably been a part of every major war, but look, no matter the war, you still get an idea of who his character is, and that's why it works. Look, it's no secret that Marvel plays loose with the sliding timescale. Just look at Magneto during New X-Men, where it ends with him destroying Manhattan, killing thousands and enslaving more. And then after Grant Morrison leaves, the next couple of writers spent many an issue trying to run this back, saying that, I don't know, it was some Chinese guy who did it. So if something massive like this can be retconned, what can't be? If you don't like a direction of a book, there's still decades worth of work to read, and I'm sure the following years things will go back to how they were. I would much prefer if a story prioritizes trying to tell a cool one rather than trying to stick with decades worth of books, as long as they get the character's core down.